Action.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating, as usual, I see. Algae.
Yes, I believe it is customary in good society to have some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
Oh, and what on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours, neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
Oh, how immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Eh? Shropshire? Yes, of course. Hello, why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful!
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolen. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I had thought you would come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
Oh, there is nothing romantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there is nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one must be accepted. One usually is, and then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, dear Algie. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Oh, there is no use speculating on the subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Don't touch the cucumber sandwiches.
What
They
you
are
have
made
been...
specially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all the time.
Oh, my dear fellow, that is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Here, have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolen. Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Yes, my dear fellow, that is all very well. You need not eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you are married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, my dear fellow, in the first case, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
Oh, no, it isn't. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
Yes, Gwendolen is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Bring me the cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room the last time he dined here. Yes. Yes, thank you.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you would let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
Well, there is no good offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, It makes no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, I find that the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine! You've seen me with it 100 times! And you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside! It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case!
It's absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should and what one shouldn't read. I mean, more than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
I'm quite aware of the fact that I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk of in private. I simply want my cigarette case back!
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case was given to you by somebody by the name of Cecily, and you say you don't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Oh, your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not. That is a matter that surely an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd! For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case!
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. I have no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt. But an aunt, no matter what his size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle. I simply can't quite make it out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Earnest.
It isn't Earnest, it's Jack!
You have always told me it was Earnest. I have introduced you to everyone as Earnest. You look as if your name is Earnest. You answer to the name of Earnest. You are the most earnest-looking person I have ever seen in my life. It is perfectly absurd, you saying your name isn't Earnest. Here, it's on your cards. See, Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest if you ever attempt to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and my cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come on, old boy, you better have the whole thing out at once.
My dear fellow, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It is very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
My dear fellow, that is what dentists always do. Now go on. Tell me the whole thing. I may mention that I have always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
Oh, I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there was nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle, for motives of respect you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy. You'll not be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
Oh, well, I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have myself bunburyed all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
My dear Algy, I doubt whether you'll be able to understand my real motives. You're hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of a guardian, one must adopt a very high moral tone. It's one's duty to do so. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce very much either in one's health or one's happiness, in order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth. Pure and simple.
Oh, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
That wouldn't be at all a bad thing.
Oh, literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. Leave it to those who haven't been at university. They do so well of it in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you were a Bumbriist. In fact, you are one of the most advanced Bumbriists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest that you may come into town as often as you like. I have invented a rather permanent invalid called Bunbury so that I may go out into the country whenever I choose. Oh, Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it weren't for his extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I have really been engaged to Aunt Augusta for over a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know. You're absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It is very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people more than not receiving an invitation.
You had better much dine with your Aunt Augusta.
Oh, I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. Well, to begin with, I dined there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as a member of the family, and either sent down with no woman at all, or two. And in the third place, I know perfectly well with whom she will place me next to. She will place me next to Mary Fargois, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is not very pleasant. Indeed, it is not even decent. And the amount of women who flirt with their own husbands in London is enormously on the increase. It's so bad. It's like washing one's own linen in public. Besides, now that I know you are a secret and confirmed Bumbriist, naturally I want to talk to you about Bumbrying. I want to tell you the rules!
I'm not a Bumbriist at all! If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother! Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is a little too much interested in him, is rather a bore. So I'm going to get rid of Ernest, and I strongly advise you to do the same about Mr. with your invalid friend who has the absurd name.
Oh, nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. If you are to get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you will be very happy to know Bunbury. In fact, a man who marries without knowing Bunbury tends to have a very tedious time of it.
Oh, that is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she's the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You seem to forget that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
For heaven's sake, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
Oh, it isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. Oh, stop it! No!